Last year, everyone was losing their minds over Final Fantasy 16, and I was sitting in the corner, shaking and crying, debating if I was a real boy because I played the demo and I unequivocally hated it. I didn't understand why everyone else was loving this game. Maybe Final Fantasy just wasn't for me. Maybe I just don't get it because I'm too old, or maybe I'm just so jealous of everyone's magnificent hair. I made a video explaining that I wanted to love the series, but that 16 just didn't click with me. I got called a view baiter, a copium huffer, and an Xbox delusional fanboy. Oh, and this person just gave me a thumbs down because clicking the dislike button clearly wasn't enough for them. I wanted to love this series, so I decided to give Final Fantasy VII Remake a real chance, and wow, I am so glad that I did. This game is a roller coaster of a ride, and today we are going to go over how Final Fantasy VII Remake reignited my love for gaming. Near the end of 2023, I was having another existential crisis that maybe I was done with gaming. I just wasn't excited to play anything. Even games that looked really cool, I just wouldn't even bother buying. Or games that I'd wanted to play for years are just sitting in my Steam library, gathering dust. I didn't even bother downloading them for fear that I might have to try them. I was burnt out from real life, and I let it affect my gaming as well. If you don't know, I have a normal job, as this dream job really doesn't even come close to even paying a fraction of even one of my bills. I have a normal job, a 1-year-old son, and honestly feel like there's not enough hours in the day, especially when I'm up all hours of the night. All that to say that even in my free time, I would just not want to boot up a game. I went to make a video for my channel about my favorite games of 2023, and I realized that I'd only played like 3 or 4 games. Not even enough to make a proper video. Over my Christmas break, I had more time than usual. I decided to try Final Fantasy VII, in some kind of effort to force myself to love the series. But once I started, I really didn't need much forcing. By the end of this journey through Midgar, I was once again in love with gaming, looking for all the games I could play this year, looking for prequels to games that are coming out this year that I had not played, researching builds and ideas on how to play them in unique and fun ways. So let's get into why this game really revived my love for gaming. Let's start with gameplay, and more specifically, combat. As far as I'm aware, the original 1997 game was a turn-based RPG, so for the remake, they looked to bring some of that flair into the more modern style of combat. I was skeptical when I saw this game in trailers and previews and all that kind of thing, but my god, it is good. The game is mostly a squad-based combat system where you use basic attacks to build up the ATB meter, and once the segment is filled, you can perform an action from the action menu by pressing X. Time slows immensely when in this menu. You can choose from abilities which are unique to each of the members, spells which can be equipped to any party member. You can also use items like health potions or something to revive a teammate. Now so far all I've done is explain the combat, but not really how it feels. I don't really know, but it feels great. I thought it would really disrupt the flow of combat, but honestly you will sometimes need a little break. The fights are intense and have you on your toes, often surviving by slivers. It also helps that you can bind 4 moves to a quick action wheel, which once you figure out how to use it and what's best to bind to them, it really makes the combat flow even better. The thing that takes the combat to the next level is the enemies. Every enemy makes you think about it and approach them in different ways, and with a wide variety of enemy types, most encounters feel distinct, or at least they get switched up often enough so that they all feel different. For example, there are human enemies with shields who you must attack from behind or else your weapon will just bounce off them. Or these flying freaks you have to hit with basic attacks until it gets a magic shield. Then it will be immune to basic attacks until you hit it with a spell to break its shield. Most enemies are more susceptible to a certain type of magic, either fire, water, wind, or electricity. Actually, I don't think it's water, I think it's ice. But you know, you get the idea. There's also a stagger bar which can be filled in different ways depending on the enemy, and once it's filled, the enemy staggers where you can get lots of damage in. And to top it all off, you get to switch between party members that all feel different to play and have different strengths and weaknesses. All this culminates in a combat system that is deep, yet simple to pick up and hard to master, which is always the best kind of design. I cannot overstate how fresh this system feels while also feeling familiar. I loved flying all over the battlefield and slowly learning better techniques to take down the enemies, while also slowly picking up new skills, weapons, and materia for new spells. Yes, we'll talk about that in a bit. The final point I'd like to make regarding the combat is that the boss fights are great. They have spectacle while also a great challenge that will take every member of your party to take down. There was one boss fight that I didn't enjoy much. It was weird because you were alone in your party with just Cloud to control. which kinda went against everything that you'd been learning the whole game, which usually boss fights are when you use everything that you have learnt up until that point. I had to look up a guide because I was getting absolutely smashed every time, and then as soon as I knew how to beat him, I won the first time. So yeah, I'm gonna say that was the low point of a brilliant game, but I had to mention it. That negative aside, this combat showed me that there is still loads of room to improve and innovate in this kind of gameplay. I now feel like I can enjoy other games and maybe even some turn-based games as well. Just a few little changes in the formula can really spark the adventurous side of a gamer. Well, as adventurous as you can get while sitting in your gaming chair hoping that your 1-year-old sleeps for just one more hour so you can finish this script. Oh, for the love of God! Jokes aside, I really do feel like trying new genres now after years of playing very similar games. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video, please hit that subscribe button with all the notifications on, you know, all the YouTubery things. Really helps out the channel. Also, it'd be nice if you could smack that like button, or the dislike button if you hate this. You know, maybe you do. Maybe you absolutely hate this. So let's talk about the weapons and skills. Weapons have a skill associated with each one, so when using that weapon you can use that skill. However, if you want to use that skill with another weapon, you need to level up your proficiency to 100%, just by using that weapon. So I think that's pretty cool. It makes you use a weapon for a while just to see if you like it or not, and if you want to use that skill with a different weapon, you can, just with a tiny bit of effort. Weapons all come leveled up to the same level no matter when you unlock them, so you just need to spend your points on each one, or there is an automatic unlock option if you cannot be bothered with going through this upgrade system, which I will say I wasn't a huge fan of the screen layout. I had to scroll through every little solar system looking thing to see what I wanted rather than being able to see them all at once. I know it's boring thematically, but a list would suffice here. Materia are these little orbs you can find out in the world and are able to be slotted into your weapons to create different builds for each character that can be swapped out at any time that you're not in combat. I think this is good when you have your party with you, e.g. you're playing with 2 other characters. But I didn't enjoy being thrown into battles with just one of the party members and having to go in and disrupt builds that I'd already created by taking materia from other characters and putting them into the weapon of the character that I was currently soloing with. It felt clunky, and I hope there's less of this in Rebirth. The game is also a lot more fun with 3 playable characters in the fights. I'll give an example of this. I relied heavily on one of my characters to heal all my team members by using a materia that changed the spell to heal all of my team members rather than just one. I had not practiced shielding or any other defensive styles as I wanted to play the healing game, mostly because the other styles all needed forethought, skill, and brains, none of which I have. I preferred to get the life beaten out of me and then just heal it up. Once the character was removed from my party, I had to go into the menu and move around all the materia so that I still had healing on other characters, or in some cases, the character that you just play solo, because that is the playstyle that I was used to. At some points in the game, you are losing and gaining party members every like 15 minutes or so it got pretty tiring at those points moving it all around. A very good feature it has though is that if you're in a cutscene that will immediately put you into a battle afterwards, there is a button prompt that will let you change all your weapons, materia, etc. before the fight begins. A very handy feature. On the whole though, I liked the materia/weapon and skill systems that make for fun, engaging choices for your unique playstyle. The world of Final Fantasy VII Remake is honestly so awesome. I'd love to call it steampunk, but they have electricity, so it's more like electropunk. I love the idea of the top side where all the better off people live while the poor live in the districts underneath in the slums, where they have to have a fake sun and sky because of the entire city built above them. The setting is really unique and it makes it stand out from all the other films and games that have attempted stories told in these types of alternative universes. The opening pre-rendered cutscene is stunning and sets up the story enough so I wasn't totally confused. Since this was my first ever Final Fantasy game, I had no idea what to expect. I was instantly interested in this world and wanted to know more, something I hadn't felt this strongly in a game for a while. I do need to say that the world, while looking beautiful in spots, could get a bit repetitive with its brown wasteland type areas that we spent a lot of the game in early on. I think in Rebirth they're going to let you explore a lot more of the more interesting environments this world has to offer, if the trailers are anything to go off. The level design also can feel very gamey, a bit outdated maybe. I think it's because there's no free running or jump button, you can only go where the game specifically wants you to go, and that feels a bit like I'm on rails. I would prefer to make my own way through an area, not be told exactly where I can and cannot jump, etc. There's a part where you must jump across slum rooftops in order to get to safety. It would have felt very cool if I had to navigate it myself and find a safe path through. However, I just had to follow the very specific path laid out before me. So instead of feeling in control, I just felt like I was watching a cutscene. A thing I do really like about the level design is if you are making your way through a level, it will show you something like in the distance or through a window, something, an important item or chest. At this current point in time though, you can't grab it. I would probably have missed a lot of it because I'm blind in the eye department. But because I was already thinking about it and actively looking for it, I managed to see it and figure out how to do it. Levels are basically a series of small battles as you progress through, with occasional boss battles and puzzles to figure out. All pretty standard, but it did feel a bit gamey at stages, but the battle system and story is so interesting, it really carries the level design on its back. Okay, so it's going to be difficult to discuss the story without spoilers, so this is going to be brief and a bit bare bones. The story starts off slow by giving you details about the world and some of the starting characters. At first, I thought the story was pretty standard, bad guy ruling the world, let's take him down kind of thing. But as you progress, we find out more and more about other parts of the story which start to get filtered into the main narrative, and it becomes a more complex story, and in doing so it becomes much more intriguing. I want to know more about this world, its characters, villains, and even the nitty-gritty details of the planet. Yes, I'm one of those guys who has no problem with the midichlorian explanations in Star Wars, and in fact, I like them. As more details and side stories are thrown into the story, you begin to have more and more questions, but it never becomes overwhelming. You're never too confused that you want to quit or watch an explanation video, just enough to keep you guessing and questioning. I think it strikes the perfect balance between intrigue and the unknown. So, I want to give a short disclaimer before I get onto this part of the video. I have never watched a single anime as an adult. And not because I think it's bad or anything, I just never really thought it was for me, and I basically have no spare time for any more hobbies. So when I say I am initially put off by how the characters are written and how they act, you will understand this is all a new style to me. I need to say that by the end of the game, I found it to be more charming and enchanting, but at first it was a culture shock. I don't know anyone in real life who acts or talks like the people in this game do, but that's what makes this fresh and compelling to me. This got me thinking, like pretty much every other part of the game, that I will enjoy more things than I think I will. Maybe things I've distanced myself from, I might actually enjoy. So there's a lot of cheese, lots of looking at the camera and giving thumbs up, lots of strange grunts and sounds coming from Cloud especially, that I am not used to. Everyone is just so bloody gorgeous as well. Well, mostly everyone. But everyone has perfect hair, it's incredible. And I don't know if this is an anime type staple thing, but are all the attractive women characters always this horny? Like, oh my god, everyone just flirts with you the entire game, and are so overly nice. Cloud is a suppressed, inward-looking character, but all the women are constantly being unbelievably nice to him, even if he's not giving anything in return emotionally. I don't mind it now, I grew to love it, but at the start, as I said, I was a little taken aback. And yes, I just said taken aback, and I'm sticking with it. Speaking of Cloud, he is a complex character with emotions he tries to keep inside. He tries to act like he is selfish, but I really enjoyed his slow character development as the story went on. It was very subtle, and I think they will continue that trend into Rebirth with a full revelation in the final game of the planned trilogy. With all that said, I want to hereby decree that I love the characters in this game, and I really grew to love the over-the-top nature of everyone. I probably would enjoy anime if I had the time. Please, please, please don't leave suggestions for good ones to start with down in the comment section. No, seriously, don't. Not much to say about the graphics. The pre-rendered cutscenes are absolutely gorgeous, but look so much better than the in-gameplay ones that it can be a bit jarring. The in-game ones are perfectly fine though. I played on PC, and my PC is starting to show its age a bit now after years of rendering videos, and it did struggle a bit in areas with lots of NPCs walking around. Just a few jitters here and there. But in all the boss fights and combat sequences, it didn't miss a beat, so I am very happy with the performance, especially considering I need a new PC. Side content is all tied into the story nicely, which is done by allowing you to only do them at certain stages. Basically, once you get into a chapter with side quests, it's best to do them all immediately because you could be swept away from that point in the game in the next main quest and never able to complete them again. I love this because it allows the side quests to be directly tied into the main narrative and therefore making them more impactful and meaningful. There's nothing worse than a bunch of side quests that are so far detached from the main narrative they could be in almost any other game. The downside is once you miss them, that's it. I did a bit of research before playing, so I knew to do all of the side quests as soon as possible as to not miss them. Music is another highlight of this game, but like when I played the Final Fantasy XVI demo, I did occasionally think the music was out of place slightly. I don't know why, but it's just something that I seem to notice in this series that I have never noticed before. However, for most of the game, the music is phenomenal, and I'm going to be listening to it out of game for sure. The music adds to the atmosphere, and some of the boss music is unbelievably good. It just influences how you feel about the fight and the story that it is telling. Before my conclusion, I would like to mention a few negatives I jotted down while playing. First of all, I am beyond sick of these slow walking to get through small crack sequences. I know they're hidden loading screens, but I really hope with the new generation of consoles we can do away with these. There are also many slow walking sequences where there's no one talking or anything. You just have to walk slow, and as someone who doesn't have that much time to game as they would like, this is extremely frustrating. Nearing the end of the game, there are a few sequences which are genuinely boring. There's like 3 in a row where the game takes a noticeable downturn and develops into what I can only describe as a slog. Lots of story thrown at you in short spaces of time with tiny bits of gameplay, broken up by lots of more slow walking or climbing sequences. And a few times they did the old sin of a cutscene into 3 meters of walking into another cutscene. Like, what was the point in giving me back control? Most of my gripes here at the end are time related because I have to play my games in very small pockets of free time. I get easily irritated by things I perceive as unnecessarily slow or feel like they are needlessly wasting my time. I may not be as annoyed if my life was a little bit less hectic. I don't think I could have picked a better game to get me back into my gaming groove. Final Fantasy VII Remake was a fresh take on an old game that used new innovative combat ideas to really shake up the gameplay experience. This game gripped me and made me enjoy games. It sparked that light in me. I actually want to play games again. I'm excited for new releases, and I'm attempting to get through my backlog of amazing games I still haven't played. Cloud and his allies gave me a new outlook on the kinds of stories and genres I can enjoy, and a small feeling that I could start to step out of my comfort zone and play games that are slightly out of my usual box. I normally stick with my action-adventure or open-world RPGs, but I'm starting to think I can enjoy more than that. I am planning on playing my first side-scroller since Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Sega Mega Drive when I was very young, and I am going to play Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown next week. After this game reignited the fire for gaming, I am happy to say that 2024 is going to be a great year. For me, for gaming, and hopefully for my channel. I am more optimistic than I have been for this adventure of YouTube, and I owe it all to the fantastic game called Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe with notifications on, or alternatively, donate with the thanks button below. Thank you so much for watching, it really does mean the world to me when I see people enjoying my content. And thanks to my lonely patron Alex Applegate for your continued support. Hope to see you all in the next one. Sticks out.